Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking to you about crested gecko prices and how much your crested gecko should cost or how much your crested gecko should be sold for. I'm going to be talking about what I would pay for a gecko, so this doesn't mean that if you see a gecko from this different range of prices that I'm going to be talking about, it doesn't mean that the gecko is a scam or that it is underpriced or anything. It's just what I would pay for personally after some time of being in the community and the hobby, and after having some information and after having some knowledge about the whole hobby and crested gecko world. I also want to say that all of the information in this video comes from what I understand and my personal opinion, from going to reptile shows, from looking at Morph Market, and it follows the market prices that I have been seeing after months of studying certain prices on certain traits. If you think that the geckos that you produce are a different price, that is your opinion. You are the one who sells the geckos, and I am no one to tell you what price your gecko should be. I am just giving my opinion, and some people have asked me, so I'm going to be using this video as a way of answering. Also, this video is oriented for smaller breeders or breeders that do not have a brand name. So let's say that we go for bigger breeders, maybe Altitude Exotics or Tiki's Geckos are going to be selling their geckos for more money because they have a brand and everyone wants to buy from them because they have really good lines and they have been breeding for years. So that's why they are a brand, and me, who just started, I'm going to be selling geckos for way cheaper because I don't have such a reputation as they do, and I do not have as many years as they do, and my projects are not as specific and as well oriented as theirs are. It's not only a brand, but it's also all the time and years they have spent and they have put that makes that gecko going to be more expensive. So maybe a gecko that visually looks the same between two brands that are different, the brand that has been in the market for more years is probably going to be more expensive. Just the same way that a Nike hoodie is going to be more expensive than a hoodie without a brand. I also want to add that there's a lot of different kinds of geckos, morphs, and traits. I'm going to be doing a really generalized list of prices. I'm going to be going over a few morphs and traits, and honestly, this is not enough for the whole market. As you saw in my previous video, if you saw my previous video, there's a lot of traits. There's like nearly 60 traits in the crested gecko world, or maybe more. So each one of these traits is going to reflect and affect the price. This video, as I said, is really general, and I am going to be talking to you about what I spent, what I would spend, and how much I will sell my geckos for. I will start by listing the things that can increase or decrease the value of the gecko and that are not morph related, such as structure, lineage, sex, age, morph combinations. So without further ado, let's get into these prices. The structure of the gecko isn't really that important, but it's going to tell you that it probably comes from a good line. Most crested geckos with a good head structure come from good breeders, and they are visually more appealing. I really like crested geckos with a really good crest, as like many people in the crested gecko world do. A crested gecko with a good head structure is definitely going to cost more than a crested gecko with a poor head structure. Good head structure is considered really big crests, good orientation of the spikes and the crest, the head size. You want a big head on the crested gecko, a short snout. So these things can affect the price of the crested gecko. So let's say that you have a dark base Harlequin with some orange patterning. A lot of people have this kind of gecko, and I don't know why, but the ones that I've seen on Reddit that look like this have poor head structure. Well, this Harlequin is definitely going to cost less than a Harlequin that has a really nice head structure and has more vibrant colors and has more pattern. Now, lineage is also important for what I said before. Lineage doesn't only tell you about the breeders who are doing it, like in which facility is being done or who is the owner of the geckos that are making babies, but it is also important because you want to know where certain genetic mutations or where certain genetic traits come from. So let's say that I breed two Harlequins together and then I produce something that is not known to the crested gecko community. People are going to want to see pictures of the parents and maybe know where I got the parents from. That way we can keep track of possible mutations and possible genetic traits or even diseases that are being passed on from generation to generation. Lineage is also important, and a crested gecko with lineage is probably going to cost more than a crested gecko without lineage. And I think that working with lineage is one of the things that I like doing the most. I like keeping track of the breeding records, and it is a good thing to do and to keep for you and for your customers, because they're going to ask you for lineage. Another thing that can vary the price of the gecko is obviously the sex and the age. Usually the younger is going to be the cheaper because you can see the pattern as well, and because it's going to take some time till it's breedable. And then after 6-7 years, the price is probably going to go down since they start to not be able to breed for that long. Usually crested geckos after 8 years or 9 are not breeding as well as a crested gecko that is 3-4 years old. So crested geckos after 9 or 10 years are gonna be sold as pet only, and they still have a few years of life, but they're not gonna be breeding as well. Or maybe it's just better to give them some time to rest for themselves, and they have been breeding for 10 years, so that is enough, and they have made enough babies, and they should definitely rest and have some time in peace. So crested gecko age is important. The two things that you see in age is how good it's going to breed at that age and how good it looks at that age, because crested gecko babies look way different than a crested gecko that is 20 or 30 grams, because their color is really enhanced and it develops so much after the 15 or 20 gram mark or even later. You'll see that a crested gecko evolves pretty much every time in their life. Usually they don't change as much as they reach sexual maturity, but even so, after like 7-8 years, crested geckos colors might change, and the vibrance or the tones are going to still change even if they do it slower. The sex is also going to affect the price. This is not always true, especially with new genetic mutations. So let's say that you have an Axanthic. A male is probably going to be more expensive because you can make more Axanthic babies with an Axanthic male than an Axanthic female, because you can breed a male to any amount of females, but you can only breed a female to one male at a time. So sex might change the price, but it is usually more noticeable when you are looking into expensive mutations and expensive traits that people want to pass on. So when the Lily White trait was new in the community, the males were definitely more expensive, maybe even twice as expensive as the Lily White females, because with one Lily White male you can make a lot of Lily White babies, but with one Lily White female you can only pair that girl to one male. Sex is going to affect the price, but it is usually more seen in genetic mutations that are more desired. Also, the combination of several traits might affect the price. So, for example, Phantom Lily White is going to be more expensive than a just Phantom Crested Gecko, while a Phantom Lily can go for like 600. I wouldn't pay personally more than 600 for a Phantom Lily unless it has like a really nice contrast and like a really nice thick wall of white on the sides, and then like a really nice tail. But I would personally not pay more than 600 for a Phantom Lily. We are producing some nice Phantom Lily Whites. In the future, you'll see them in our store. But I would pay up to 600 for a Phantom Lily White, but I would not pay up to 600 for just a Phantom Crested Gecko. Phantoms are really pretty, but there are a lot of them, and it is a really old mutation. So we have been seeing a lot of Phantoms during the entire life of the hobby, and they are not as expensive as a Phantom Lily White because the Lily White is a more newly discovered trait than the Phantom. And also, a lot of Phantom Lilies look better than just Phantoms. Another thing that can affect the price of the Crested Gecko is the base color. It's not the same thing, just like a buckskin Phantom Lily White than a Phantom Red Lily White. A Phantom Red Lily White is definitely going to be more expensive than just like a buckskin Phantom Lily White. Then also diseases and health issues are definitely going to affect the price of the gecko. So some common issues might be floppy tail syndrome or FTS or metabolic bone disease, MBD. So these things are definitely going to make the gecko cheaper as they can affect their health. And for example, metabolic bone disease, I haven't seen a gecko with metabolic bone disease for more than $50, and I would never even sell a crested gecko with metabolic bone disease, because that gecko has no life guarantee and it could die at any moment if the disease is really developed. It is true that you can slow the process of dying, but there's no way of curing metabolic bone disease. So I would never even sell a crested gecko that has metabolic bone disease. I would just like give it away for free, or give it to a rescue, or give it to someone who knows how to care about crested geckos, or even keep it for myself as a pet. And then finally, this is kind of obvious, but the amount of geckos you buy is going to affect the price. And I'm not talking of like, if you buy two, it's gonna cost two, but if you buy one, it's gonna cost one. No, I'm talking of, if you buy 10, you're going to get crested geckos for a wholesale price. So it is not the same thing to buy 10 lily whites from different breeders than to buy 10 lily whites from the same breeder. If you buy 10 lily whites from different breeders, you might end up spending 3,000 or 4,000 bucks, or even more. But if you buy 10 lily whites from the same breeder, you might get them all for like $1,000, which is a pretty good deal for a bunch of lily whites. The downside of wholesales is that you don't get Lineage, or most people are not gonna pay attention to the geckos as much, because usually people who do wholesales are doing them because they have another job and they don't have time to keep track of everything, and they're just breeding to make money. So make sure that you buy from someone who is making wholesales just because they're trying to help people out, because when I have enough babies, I'm probably gonna do wholesales, and I could sell those babies individually and make more money. But I think that I want to give the opportunity to other people to do what I did when I was starting. I want to give others the opportunity of buying a bunch of geckos and then grow them out, and then in a few years they can breed them together and have babies, and maybe give other people the opportunity of buying wholesale. So just to sum up, there are 8 factors in this video that affect the crested gecko price, but there's definitely more. I said the structure, the lineage, the sex, the age, morph combinations, the base color, diseases and health issues, and gecko quantity. Now that I've said these things, we can get into crested gecko morphs and traits more specifically. So I want to talk about the phantom or patternless. Babies can go anywhere from $25 or $50 or even more if they're really pretty. And the adults can go around $200, $300, or $400. Usually for phantoms, you want nice portholes or like white spots and a really nice color, as it's the only thing that is going to show. So also the color might change the price. So for example, I personally really like red crested geckos, so I would pay more for a red crested gecko than a buckskin crested gecko. Obviously talking right now of the phantom crested gecko. Buckskin crested gecko adult might go for 100 or 150, while a red phantom crested gecko might go for 300 or 400 if it has a good structure. Flames were pretty common in the past, and they have been bred a lot, and they are really saturated, as well as Harlequins, but flames are visually less pretty than Harlequins in my opinion. And flames are pretty much the same as a phantom for the babies. So you can get a baby for $25 maybe, and the adults, I would not pay more than $200 for an adult flame crested gecko. As I said, there's a lot. I don't think flames are going to be the future. I think they already had their time, and now it is time for newer gecko morphs and for more vibrant crested gecko morphs. The flame doesn't really say much to me. I might be biased, but I don't really like flames that much. So that's that. Now Harlequins are similar to flames visually, but they can change a little bit in price, especially if they have a lot of pattern or coverage. So let's say a normal Harlequin, as I said before, is definitely going to cost less than an extreme Harlequin. Extreme Harlequins can go for $400, $500. I wouldn't pay more than $350, $400 maybe. Harlequins are really common. Extreme Harlequins are really pretty, but they are fairly common. So I wouldn't pay more than $400 probably. But maybe you find a good deal for a really nice extreme Harlequin for more than $400. So if you see that, you can go ahead and buy it. I am no one to judge you, or I am no one to tell you the price you should sell your geckos for. So as I said before, this is my opinion, and I want to make this a video because this is a way of keeping track for myself and maybe to answer some of the questions you have been asking me. Now, tricolors are similar to the Harlequins in price. I would say maybe a little more for the baby, so $50, but the problem about tricolors is that the babies don't really look as good as the adults. So a baby tricolor is not gonna be a really pretty gecko until it gets to the 20 grams, and you can see a really nice contrast between the base colors and the white. It depends on which age you're selling it or buying it, but I wouldn't pay more than 350 probably for tricolor gecko. I got Keith for 100. It was a really good deal. I got a Lineage. He has great head structure. He is a good breeder. He is still young. He's a 2020 kid. So I got a really nice deal for $100. This doesn't mean that you're gonna get it because I got it because someone was getting out of the hobby. You can go in Facebook groups, you can go on Morph Market and see maybe if people are getting out of the hobby, they are probably gonna sell the geckos for cheaper because they're not breeding anymore for money. They are just getting out and they just wanna maybe make a little bit of profit, or maybe they just wanna get a little bit of the money they invested in back. Then tigers and brindles are kind of similar, so I'm gonna put them together. They are not as popular as harlequins, and I personally don't like them as much. So I might be biased, but I wouldn't really do more than 300 for a tiger or a brindle. I think some of them can be really pretty, but honestly they don't really say much to me. I think they're fairly common, and a baby can go for 50 or 100, and an adult can go for 300. Dalmatians is kind of controversial because Dalmatian technically is any gecko that has at least one spot, but maybe a few spots can affect the crested gecko negatively, while a lot of spots can affect the crested gecko price positively. Let's say that you have a really nice super Dalmatian that is definitely going to cost way more than a crested gecko that has a few spots. For a super Dalmatian, I could see myself paying 600, 700 bucks if it's really nice, if it has big spots, if the quality of the spots is nice, it has ink blots as well, and it has a good head structure lineage. I could spend that much money. But if there's a Harlequin with a few Dalmatian spots and bad head structure, I'm definitely not gonna spend more than 150 bucks on that gecko, because it is not a breeder quality, it is more of a pet quality. Now, Quadstripes and Superstripes, I don't really know much about these, but I think they're really pretty. I've seen some really nice ones go for 250 bucks, 300 bucks, that's what I would pay. I think babies can go for like 100 bucks, and maybe the adults can go for like 350, 400, which is a pretty good deal for a super stripe or a quad stripe, in my opinion. Now, lily whites, it is 2024. Lily whites are still super pretty, but there is a lot of lily whites. I remember a year ago I was in an expo and I was gonna buy a lily white for $150. It was a baby, and I was like, that's a really good deal. So babies will sell for like $100, $150, while adults with a lower expression can go for like $250 or $300, and then the lily whites that have a really nice coverage and expression can go for $600, $700, and that is not a bad price for a really nice lily white. As I said before, lily whites can be combined with other things, so maybe a full bag, a really full white bag on a lily white is definitely going to be more expensive than a lily white that has almost no coverage, and you might be wondering if it even is a lily white. Cappuccinos are pretty new. Maybe you can see babies from 300 or 400, and then you can see adults for over 1,000. Personally, I would probably not pay more than 1,000 because I think 1,000 is a lot to pay for a crested gecko. Now, the same thing for Axanthics, although they're a little bit more expensive, 1,000 to 3,000. There are some really good deals for over 3,000, but I'm definitely not going to pay that much for a crested gecko. Me, Diego, I'm not going to pay that much. But maybe you, a big breeder, can afford to pay more than 3,000 for a gecko. I am not going to do it, but probably if you have an Axanthic crested gecko, and it has good structure, and it is a male, and it is ready to breed, but it is still young, and it is lily white as well, that is definitely going to go for like $3,000 or $4,000. Just note that since it's a recessive mutation, you might get scammed or taken advantage of, because people might mark a crested gecko as a possible cappuccino. So I would personally not buy a possible cappuccino. I would buy a visual cappuccino and make sure that I ask for lineage to know that the parents are cappuccinos, or at least had cappuccinos. I need to know that the cappuccino gene is somewhere in the family, and I need to somehow know that the gecko that I'm buying might carry that cappuccino gene. And then Sables, I would not pay more than 2,000-3,000 for a Sable. They're really pretty, but you're paying for a crested gecko, so I wouldn't pay more than 3,000, but I would probably pay 2,000 or so for a Sable, which is a really nice and fairly new trait. So to sum it up, it depends on you. I am just telling you with the help of Morph Market and maybe the things that I've been seeing during the time that I've been here and during the time that I've been in the community and the hobby. So I am no one to say how much you should sell your geckos for. I am no one to tell you how much you should pay for a gecko, but I am kind of guiding you into what I have been seeing. And I am still new to this hobby. I am not an expert, but I have been making a lot of research, and I spend at least 2 or 3 hours every day looking in different sites and Morph Market, especially looking for traits and genes, and I just love it. So I do it because I like it. So I see how some genes change the price and how they devalue it or they increase prices. If you found this video helpful, please let me know in the comments. Please subscribe, like it, and you know what to do. Every YouTuber is telling you to do the same thing. Just support us if you can, and if you can't, it's totally fine. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.